Here it is. The Doodle Bug. The Baja Doodle Bug. This first and only mini bike that I have. How it started? Facebook Marketplace. Found it on Facebook Marketplace, and it was in the neighborhood that I grew up in, which was really close. And didn't even know it. The person that I messaged turned out to be one of my childhood friends. I didn't even realize that it was her until I looked at her profile or whatever and realized that it was her. I was like, oh, so that made it even better. So, we set it up to meet. And when I went there to look at it, she was asking, I don't remember how much she was asking, but I remember I cut it in half. And I was like, yeah, because after looking at it, I'm like, because it kind of ran, but didn't really run. Say the engine that it had on it was a 98 cc motor, one of the little motors, which it probably came with from the factory. Which no, which it did come from the factory. That's what they come with. And um, yeah, I told her, I'm like, after looking at it and just being honest with her, I'm like, I can't pay what you're asking for it. And I gave her it off. She was like, okay. So got it, got it home. It like I said, it didn't run good really. It The carburetor was leaking gas really bad. I can like just pouring gas out. It didn't have a filter on the carburetor. Making things work. I'm good at making things work. My dad, I don't know how he had a like an old or a vacuum cleaner filter that ended up working perfectly. It fit right over where the filter should have been for the carburetor, which actually it looked kind of cool because it had like little vents. So it looked really cool on there in actuality. And it worked. And then when I bought it, I didn't even realize that it didn't even have a muffler on it. It was just open exhaust coming straight out the head of the motor, right at my leg. I didn't, and it didn't burn me. I didn't get burned or anything like that. I didn't even realize that it didn't have a muffler on it or an exhaust system on it. And I ended up making an exhaust system for it out of some pipe that I had laying around and welded it up and put it on there and ended up putting a muffler on it and learned to teaching myself how to weld. I remember it broke. It broke right at the where the flange was. It broke. I just welded it back up. I remember hooking up because the throttle, something was wrong with the throttle. I remember hooking the spring up to the bolt that went into to hold the muffler, the exhaust on, and rigging it up that way so that way it could, return. Did that. That was all on that little 98 cc motor. Then I rode it around. It didn't when I first got it, didn't have brakes. I rode it without brakes. I was like, just slow down, you'll be okay. Because it got up to a top speed, probably I think 30 miles an hour, but it, like I said, couldn't stop. But it wasn't even that fast, so I wasn't worried about it. And where I was riding, it's not a lot of traffic, so it wasn't bad. And after I got done with that, or of course, I had to put a new carburetor on it to fix that gas leak because whatever it was inside of it, and it was just leaking really, really bad. I put a new carburetor on it. Once I did that, the engine ran really, really good. It ran good. Then I think I just got tired of it being slow. So I made it a little faster. That engine that was on the black go kart, it was the 5 horsepower Briggs that go kart started out with. I took that engine off. Well, it was just sitting. And so I took the 98 cc engine off and I put that Briggs motor on. Here, the carburetor was set up on that engine. The inlet, like down to it sticks up. So trying to use the air filter, like basically like the stage one kit that was on it, the air filter stuck straight up and it was hitting the frame. So what I ended up having to do was I I measured out how wide diameter was of the adapter for the air filter. And then what I did was I went to Home Depot and I bought like a PVC elbow, like a 90-degree elbow to get it going this way. And then I ended up having to use, I think I already had it at the house. I did. Had like a slightly smaller diameter PVC pipe, and it slid right into that 90, and it was actually perfect for the air filter. So the air filter, I moved out the way and it was like back here, and it looked really, really cool. Then I was like, I made it. Real simple. I made it, and it turned out really, really nice. So after that, what else did I do? I just enjoyed that motor. I enjoyed it, and it made it bike a little bit faster. I think the bike, what was the top speed? Maybe 35, 36, something like that. Not trying to exaggerate, like it got lot faster, but it did a lot better than that 98cc motor did. Um, then I was, like I said, I was just enjoying it until one day around this time, fall, it was cold outside. I remember taking it out and riding it really, really good. I was getting it. And I think after that, I parked it. And I think I came back. I don't know if it was the next weekend or whatever it was, and tried to start it. It wouldn't start. And I was adjusting, the fuel mixture screw and all that stuff. And I think I cleaned out the carburetor. I did all kind of the normal stuff to get it to try to make it run better or run at all. I even changed the little diaphragm that goes inside the carburetor, and it still didn't run. So I ended up buying a new carburetor, which was a waste of money because it actually wasn't a real genuine Briggs and Stratton carburetor. And the bike started. I was like, oh, okay, I thought I was doing good. It ran terrible. It ran absolutely terrible. It was sputtering and spitting. It was, like I said, even after adjusting it as much as I could, it was shooting flames out the tailpipe, which that was cool, but it was still running bad. It just wasn't any good. So it just made me not like this bike. So I ended up leaving it alone because of the fact that I couldn't ride it, and I enjoyed riding it because it was easier to get out and ride it compared to the go-karts. Because where I used to live, to get the go-karts out the yard, you had to turn them on their side to fit through the gate, and with this, you just open the gate and pull it out. So I wanted to get this one running, and eventually, after it's sitting for however long, I'm like, I'm just gonna. So that's where this engine comes in. The new 224s that come out, and I maybe have seen videos or something about it. I'm like, I want one, and I was like, I'm just gonna spend the money. If I'm gonna get another engine, I'm just gonna buy one that I want, and I wanted something different. I didn't want to do another Tillotson on this. I'm like, I'm gonna buy a 224. I didn't even want to buy a 212, nothing like that. I wanted to buy a 224. I went. The local Harbor Freight didn't have them. I remember I had to drive far to get it, and I got it, put it on here, and this motor has been on here ever since. This motor is completely and totally stock. I haven't done anything to this motor besides put gas in and put oil in it. It's a completely stock 224. That's it. And on the clutch is a 12-2 clutch, and I believe the back sprocket is a 54. I believe it's a 54 sprocket on the back. And this bike does 48 miles per hour, completely and totally stock. Even with the governor, I haven't touched the governor. Nothing's been zip tied, anything like that. It is completely stock. So at 48, because I want to know like how fast is it? Because I know this bike's faster. I know people got bikes that do 100 miles an hour and all 50, 60, all that type of stuff. But for me, this right now is fast enough. I'm not racing it. If anything, I'm just cruising with it. If I needed it to get anywhere I needed to go, it would get me there easily because it keeps up with traffic. I'm taking the main streets. It would be perfectly fine. I can get where I needed to go on it. Um, yeah, this. Been on here all the whole time after I swapped it out for that Briggs. And yeah, only other things that I've done to it is clearly I have not made it cosmetically appealing because it looks how it looked when I bought it. This is how I bought it. The paint looked like this. Whoever she bought it from had painted over it, whatever this. It's not even black. It's like a, I don't know what this is. It's like a brownish gunmetal black. I don't know what color that is over the red because originally, of course, it's red. When I did get it though, the forks were all jacked up. They were broke. Learning how to weld, I welded this up because I didn't even realize one day I was riding it. And I came back and went, why is this so shaky? After riding it, this had cracked. This was completely apart from the top part. And I was like, oh, well, we should probably fix that. So welded that up. And they also, when I bought it, they were bent. They were like bent forward, like something had crashed it. So even before fixing the crack, I had to flip it upside down and I bent them back to get them back as straight as I could get them. And again, making stuff work. Made that work. Then, of course, it cracked, fixed that. And ever since then, it's been like that. The only other things that I've done to it, I've added headlights and tail light. All of these work. And the actual tail light actually works as a tail light. Like if I hit the brake on the brake system, it it works. Like I say, and how I got it to work was, which this is not my idea. I remember seeing a bike, which is a dope bike. I don't remember where, but it was on Instagram. But I don't remember who made it. But they had underneath the seat where they put the battery, and this is just a cordless drill battery to run the lights and everything else they needed. So I found an adapter on, I don't know if it was eBay, and I was like, cool. So I'm gonna switch it and put it underneath the seat so that way I have all the things I work. So like, look, tail light works, and I have headlights on this little switch panel that I made here. I say all of that works, and then so with the bigger light, which I figured if I was riding at night, the bigger light would be more appropriate. The tail light, like the regular running light, kind of comes on, but then you hit the brake, it works like a tail light would. And when you cut it off, it's off. And then I have these, which is another bigger light, and it has a halo. Because when I decided to do this setup, I was looking at motorcycles and I didn't want to do just a regular round light right there. I want to do something different, something that looked cool. And I don't remember what kind of bike it was. I'm not big on motorcycles, so I'm not gonna say I don't know. But it was like set up with like a bar light and then a round light. I was like, I want to do something like that. I want to do something different. So did that setup. I remember the first round I bought was not um couldn't handle the power from the battery. And I remember I shorted it out, which I was mad about. Like, what happened? I shorted it out so it didn't work. I messed it up. So I ended up buying this one, and this one can handle the power. It works great, and yeah, that's how that came about. But I had the brake. So before I had the hydraulic brake, I had a regular manual brake that went on, and it worked good for a little while. But going fast, you need to be able to stop. So I ended up upgrading it to the hydraulic brake, which works great, and it's not even that expensive. But before that, to get the tail light to work, I used we had a dryer, and I think the lid switch messed up or something. I don't remember how it came about, but I remember it's a switch for the dryer. And no, I'm sorry, dryer, washing machine. And there was a switch, and I was messing around with it. I just wanted to see how it worked, and I realized that if you pressed it like that, it opened. I don't know if it's opened the circuit or closed it, however it was, and it allowed for the light to come on. And so I was like, I'm gonna use that. And I rigged it up to where when I pressed down on the other brake handle and it contacted that, it would cause the light to come on. So I used that switch to work my tail lights until I got this, which this was super simple because you just hook the wires up to this and it powers the brake light. Simple. Um, I I've got good at making things work. So yeah, I did that. What else? It's pretty much it. I made this little switch panel. I had a piece of metal and I just kind of cut it and contoured it to here and then drilled the holes and put the switches in here and did that. And learning from my other builds with lights, I learned more about the wiring. So this is why this one works and the other ones don't that much work too well now. But I learned and made everything a little bit nicer and a little bit cleaner. It could be a lot cleaner, but everything works for the purpose. And yeah, what I would like to do in the future, if I ever break this bike down and redo it, I would like to have a distribution block. I want to hook all these things up to a distribution block so that way it's up and not all spliced together into one and how I have it now. Because when I remember, I made it work, but it could be a lot nicer and work better. Um, but yeah, other than that, that's it for this bike. There's nothing else really else to it. It's simple. It works good. It's fun. It's fast. It's yeah, the only mini bike I have right now. So other than that, that's pretty much it. Again, if you got any comments, questions, concerns, I'll do my best to answer. And if I don't know a question, I'll try to find somebody who does know. So on that note, peace.